As most of y'all know, one of the most important aspects of building your squad in Madden Ultimate Team is not necessarily picking the best overall player, but the best overall type of player that fits with your squad. So just because there's like a 98 overall quarterback, there might be a 97 overall quarterback that's slightly better for your squad. So you don't necessarily always want to go for the best players. So today we're going to talk about the best types of players that you're going to want to build your squad around in Madden 21 to give you the best chance of succeeding, especially in those first weeks or two when the game comes out. If you're looking to build that God squad to get the leg up on your competition, check out my new sponsor MutCoins Express on Twitter to get the fastest and cheapest MUT coins available. Use code WIZARD to get 10% off your order. What's going on, guys? Wizard of Oz here with another Madden 21 video. Like I said in the intro there, today we're going to talk about the best players to build your squad around so you have the best chance of succeeding on the field in Madden 21. Now, this is going to be particularly helpful at the beginning of Madden 21 where everyone's still figuring out their squads, their play styles, you know, the kinds of players that they want on their team. So if you know the kinds of players you want already before Madden 21 starts, you can get a head start on everyone because you won't waste any coins picking up a player that you think you want and then realize you don't like that kind of player and you want to go a different direction. Now, to kind of help illustrate this, obviously we don't have Madden 21 yet, but I wanted to go back into Madden 20 to kind of show some players that sort of fit the mold of the ones that I'm going to talk about. The first position that we're going to talk about is, of course, quarterback. Now, the meta for quarterbacks in Madden 20 was to just get a really fast quarterback like Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick, just run around in the pocket, make all kinds of plays, and if it was open, just scramble. That's not going to work very well in Madden 21, particularly because they are nerfing scrambling quarterbacks. So, a couple of the ones, I just pulled up the general quarterback over here on the auction house. We'll go and look. The two that I'm going to recommend are going to be pocket passing quarterbacks and improvisers at best. We will see what kind of archetypes they have in Madden 21. I'm actually really curious whenever they drop that info. We'll definitely go over all that, the best types and all that. But assuming they stick to what they had in Madden 21, improvisers like Patrick Mahomes, Andrew Luck, any guys like this, these are the guys who have the decent speed so that if they get past the line of scrimmage, they can actually make a couple of plays, maybe get that first down, that 5 or 6 yards, but they're not the absolute burners like Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, all those guys that are just going to take it the distance, but they will be able to get you chunks of yards. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be getting the pre-order, myself included, the pre-order Lamar Jackson, and I really think it kind of sucks this year because they are nerfing them so hard. I don't think he's going to be that useful. I think he might be a little bit at the beginning. Obviously, a lot of people will be using Lamar Jackson, but because Madden 21 is going to be so passing oriented from everything that we've seen, his passing stats are not going to be phenomenal, and I don't think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks throughout the year. Yes, he will be one of the more fun ones to play with, to run around and make some plays, but because his stamina drops so quickly, so fast, if you run with him and run with him and run with him, not like it did in Madden 20, it's going to be very hard to use Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, all those guys effectively play after play after play. Now, if you use him situationally, like occasionally, every now and then, it'll work, of course, but more often than not, I think your improvisers are going to be good because these are the guys you can really use situationally. You can still put escape artists on them and get them outside of the pocket and then run if you really want to. But if you don't want to do that at all, guys like Eli Manning, Kirk Cousins, now I'm not recommending these guys in particular, just talking more about their archetypes. But these are the guys, of course, obviously with terrible speed, 56 speed here on the 72 Eli. These are the guys that have really low speed, but they're going to have the much better passing stats. So if you're playing Madden 21 and you find that you don't really like running with your quarterback a lot this year, which I think a lot of people are going to trend towards that, you might just want to go all in on the passing stats and go with the guys that just are meant to stand in the pocket, maybe escape a little bit, like you got like an Aaron Rodgers with not the top end speed, but he's got enough mobility to at least avoid some sacks, but he's not really going to take it off and, run 20 yards down the field. So these are the kind of guys I would aim for quarterback. Now, again, if you're pre-ordering the MVP and you're getting that Lamar Jackson, that card's going to be broken at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that. So I know I said at the beginning of this video that this would apply towards the beginning of Madden 21. This one is kind of the outlier. This is going to apply throughout the year in general. I think quarterbacks are definitely going to be more pocket passing oriented. So at the beginning of the year, if you find that you're not using that Lamar Jackson to roll out and run a lot to pick up those first downs, I would definitely consider moving towards a pocket passing quarterback for the latter part of the year. I also wanted to include in this video, if at the beginning of Madden 21, if these positions are ones that you want to invest in, invest a lot of your coins in, quarterback is definitely going to be one that you do want to invest the coins in, again, unless you're pre-ordering it in that Lamar Jackson. But once that Lamar Jackson kind of becomes inferior, quarterback is going to be the main position that you're going to want to always keep maxed out. Like, you want to have the top of the line quarterback if you can. Especially in Madden 21, those passing stats are going to be very, very important. You're going to want to always be invested in one of the best quarterbacks if you want to be competitive. Moving on to running back, there's going to be one stat that through all of these positions is really the most important. It's going to be a constant, and that is speed. So But the majority of these positions we're going to go over, speed is the most important, especially at the beginning of the year. People will go after the big dudes. They'll go after like the Derrick Henry, the Nick Chubb, the Zeke Elliott. All of these guys are good. They all have their good stuff. They'll break a couple of tackles, make a couple of shifty moves, but you want to have the fastest guys on your team. That is my opinion. That's how I always build my squads. It's especially at the beginning of the year when not everyone has 90 plus speed. It's going to be very beneficial for you to have that type of player on your squad. So looking at Matt Breida here, 79 overall running back, 85 speed. That 85 speed is very good, as we've talked about at other positions like wide receiver and cornerback and all that. Speed is going to be king in Madden 21. It's the king in all of Maddens at the beginning of the year. If you can burn by someone, that's all you need to do. Running people over and all that is great. Breaking tackles is great. But at the beginning of the year, if you can just outrun people, because there's not going to be a ton of people that have this type of speed, then that's what you're going to do. So really just looking at the 49ers roster, you got Matt Breida, Mostert, Tevin Coleman, all these guys with top end speed. These are going to be the guys that you want to aim for at the beginning of Madden 21. Now, whether you should invest in the running back position early on or not, I'm going to say no. I think you get a good one. I think this 79 Matt Breida would be perfectly fine for you at the beginning of the year. So running back is a very popular position to upgrade quickly. A lot of people will get Saquon, Zeke Elliott, all those really, really high-end guys. I just don't know if that's going to be the best use of your coins early on. I'm personally not going to be investing in a top-end running back unless I just get a good snipe or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as investing your coins, I would say hold off on the running back until the other stats like the juke, the break tackle, all that stuff kind of come more to a head, become more important later in the year. I just don't think they're going to be the most important. The speed is going to be the most important, and you can get some of these lower overall guys for cheaper with higher speed than so Matt Breida here has got 85 speed. He's going to have higher speed than Zeke Elliott will at the beginning of the year just because of how the card's built. Obviously, these are just my opinions, guys, so if you do disagree with me, let me know down in the comments below. We can talk about it down there. This is how I usually typically build my squad, and it works out for me pretty well at the beginning of the year, so let me know if you disagree with any of my choices here. Moving on now to wide receiver. Now, this is really going to apply for wide receivers throughout the entire year, and that speed is going to be their most important stat until we start getting multiple guys that are at 99 speed, and then you have the defenders to kind of counter that. Obviously, Tyreek Hill will probably get that first unless he gets injured or something, but speed is going to be the most important at wide receiver at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, throughout the entire year. For wide receivers, that is going to be the most important. Unless you do a lot of dinking and dunking, like 5-10 yard routes, then go pick you up a Julian Edelman, but other than that, you're going to want to get speedsters. And again, Madden 21 is going to be a very pass-heavy year, so you're going to want speedsters. So we can just look at the Chiefs here. You got Demarcus Robinson, Nicole Hartman, obviously Tyreek Hill. You go over to the Ravens, you got Hollywood Brown. Guys like this that have, so you got 85 overall Tyreek Hill with 89 speed. That's actually not even that great. I thought it was a little bit higher. Nicole Hartman here, this is a good one because he got 80 overall card with 91 speed. This was a little bit later in the year, but 91 speed for an 80 overall card, that's what you want to kind of look for. So you want that speed that's a lot higher than their overall, but all their other stats kind of drop them down. That'll make them cheap. So they're going to be like a budget beast. And of course, we will remake that list where I did the budget beast and the best cards you want once we actually get details on the cards that are in Madden 21. But you want cards like this when they come out that have the really high speed and all their other stats are not the best. So they kind of make them a sleeper. Now, people might not notice them as much. They might not notice that they have this great speed because all that, like he's got 70 medium route run, 71 deep route run. These stats are important, those medium and deep, but they're not as important as speed. The route running will just mess them up every now and then. Their cuts won't be as sharp and all that, but they'll still be able to beat people. If he has 91 speed and if he's going up against a quarterback that has 83 speed, he's going to beat him 9 times out of 10. So you want to focus on these stats that matter, not just the cards overall. Now, in terms of wide receivers, should you invest in them or not? I say absolutely yes. You want to get at least one, probably two really good fast receivers at the beginning of the year and keep them on your squad throughout the year. Now, whether that's a wide receiver or a tight end, whoever you use as your receiving threats, I throw to my tight end a lot. At least I did in Madden 20. We'll see how much that continues in Madden 21. But you want to have two really fast receiving threats on your team. They're really going to be important in Madden 21. Honestly, 3 might be good, especially if you're throwing in the tight end there in Madden 21, just because of how pass heavy the whole offense is going to be. So now one of the most important positions in real life that is probably the least important in Madden, that is the offensive line. Now, I would never recommend investing heavily into your offensive line at the beginning of the year. A lot of people might have done that in Madden 20 when it was such a big running game. It's not worth it. It's not worth it in my opinion. It wasn't worth it in Madden 20 when we had a heavy running year. It's not going to be worth it in Madden 21 when we have a heavy passing year. If you do want to invest in your offensive line, then do your left or your right tackles. Don't do your guards or your centers. Not going to be worth it, but you're going to be fine just getting goal players at the beginning of the year rather than bumping it up and spending a couple of tens of thousands of coins on your offensive line, just because they're not going to provide that much of a difference. As we all know, the pass rush is getting nerfed pretty heavily in Madden 21, so if I didn't think it was worth it to invest in offensive line in Madden 20, I sure as hell am not going to recommend that you invest in them in Madden 21. So offensive line, if you want to invest in a player, feel free, but not something that I recommend. So now the defensive side of the ball, and this is going to be completely opposite from what we had in Madden 20. Madden 20, obviously the meta was put as much red on the field as you could, meaning blitz. Just blitz the crap out of your opponent. That is not going to work in Madden 21, at least what we've seen from the beta and all the news since the beta came out. It really seems like the meta is going to be the hang back and play pass defense. Now, obviously, the user is getting nerfed and all that, so that kind of sucks with all that. But you're going to want to play more pass coverage, more conservative, in my opinion. Blitzes will obviously still have their place. You'll still want to blitz. I'm not saying to never blitz. But in general, just putting a lot of blitzers on the field is not going to work out as well in Madden 21 as it did in Madden 20. Now, that being said, for defensive end, you're going to want to go for those guys that are more speed rushers off the end. So you got guys like Julius Peppers here, who is one of the better players in Madden 20. He's still going to be good in Madden 21 because he's going to be able to get off the edge, play contain, but not necessarily just run the guys over and just destroy in the pocket. So he's got 88 speed here, which is an 88 overall card. That's really what you want. Obviously, these guys are not going to have the top end speed in the game because they're linemen. They're not going to have the same speed as wide receivers. So you want guys like Peppers. You want like D Ford. Obviously, D Ford doesn't have the craziest speed, but he's a speed pass rusher there. That's really what you want. You want guys that will get on the field, get after the quarterback as best they can, but because the pass rushing is so nerfed this year, you don't want to just fully invest in pass rushers like you did last year. Now, linebackers are going to be an interesting case. What a lot of people did last year, myself included, was 3-4 or some sort of similar defense where you had two edge rushers that were linebackers on the field, and then you had your two middle linebackers or single middle linebacker and a safety coming down or whatever. But that might not work very well in Madden 21 because of the nerf to the pass rush. So I would always recommend, if you user your middle linebacker, which I personally do, always get someone fast in the middle of the field. Even if you don't user them, you want to have a good computer. So like Devin White's going to be a good one, Devin Bush. Ironically, two Devins, but anyone with good speed, so he's got 83 speed here to 74 overall. Someone like this is going to be ideal. They can fly around in the middle of the field. They're not going to be a great run stopper, but hopefully your guys up on the line can kind of get up and do that themselves. I should have said for D tackles, we sort of skipped over it, but you want to have run stuffers right at the middle. We want to go look at that. You want to have those big bodies in the middle of the field that'll stop the halfback dives, all that good stuff that'll be able to help out. And then your middle linebackers aren't as important. They can be more of a pass coverage guy that'll go sideline to sideline, not have to blitz all the time. But if you do want to send them on a blitz, they're fast enough to get home. Now, your outside linebackers, I'm not really sure about, honestly, until the game comes out. Last year, I was very heavy into the Khalil Mack, the Von Miller, the LT, all those guys that were the big pass rushers. That probably will not work very well in Madden 21. You might want to still have one to put on the field on like 3rd and long if you want to send an extra pass rusher. But in general, you're going to want to go after guys that are better in pass coverage, in my opinion. So a guy here like the Golden Tick that we got, like Keith Bullock, Fred Warner, anyone that's not necessarily a crazy good pass rusher, but they have enough speed to be able to go and cover a large distance of the field. That is what I'm going to be building my team around at the beginning of the year to kind of help out in that zone coverage again since Madden 21. I've said it like 6 times, but since Madden 21 is going to be such a big passing year, you're going to want to have these guys that will be able to help you out in pass defense rather than a crazy pass rush. I'm going to rely more on my defensive line to get pressure on the quarterback with the occasional sending an extra blitzer, but more often than not, I'm going to be playing a lot of pass defense, and that's what I would recommend you building your team around. I guess I didn't say for the last 2 positions for defensive ends whether it's worth investing in. I would say no at the beginning of the year. Again, get some guys that are quicker, that can get out on the edge, but I wouldn't go for the top end like the J.J. Watt, the guys that are going to be the more expensive, the big name dudes. Again, like Julius Peppers was one that I said would be good to pick up, but he's going to be expensive. I would not invest in him at the beginning of the year because pass rushers just aren't going to be great, so I wouldn't really invest in them. D tackles, I never really invest in D tackles heavily at the beginning of the year, just because D tackle, if you get a decent dude in the middle of the field, he'll be all right. So the entire defensive line is not one I would invest in heavily. Middle linebackers and outside linebackers, I would invest in them heavily, especially the middle linebacker if you're using them. I would get a very good middle linebacker. That would be one of the first defensive positions that I would pick up. That's something that you're going to want to invest in. Really, whoever your user is, and we'll talk about safeties here in a minute. If you use your safeties a lot, then that is what I would invest in first. Whoever you're going to user, invest in that first. Now, cornerback is going to be interesting because, like I said, obviously we're focusing more on speed for these guys. That is the most important. But for cornerback, if you do want to have a guy or two that's more focused on man or zone coverage, that's totally going to be fine. Just be aware that you're going to have to put a safety over top to help out with that. But in general, I would go a little bit more for speed. A guy like Marshawn Lattimore here has pretty good speed at the beginning of Madden 20. Someone like that that's going to be able to keep up with the Tyreek Hill, the Nicole Hartman, Hollywood Brown, all those wide receivers with the top end speed. You're going to want to have someone, at least one guy on your team that can keep up with your opposing offense's burners. Now, if you want to have someone that's a little more physical, not quite as fast, but still a good player like Mel Blount, that's totally going to be fine there. You'll be able to jam them on the line, throw them off the routes. But again, just be aware, if they throw that dude on a streak, you're going to want to have a safety, a fast safety behind you to help out in case they get by, they can cover that up. Because otherwise, these dudes running on streaks, the really fast ones like I mentioned before, Nicole Hartman, Tyreek Hill, they're going to burn these guys like Mel Blount at the beginning of the year, and you're not going to want that. You're going to want to obviously have some safety help over top to help out with your slower cornerbacks. Even if they're more physical and they're better in that short stuff and just general coverage, they're just not going to have the speed to keep up. Also, for cornerbacks, in terms of investing, yes, I would invest in cornerbacks. Cornerbacks are very, very important. Typically, people don't use their cornerbacks. I don't know a lot of people that do. But regardless, you need to have some good cornerbacks on the field to help you out in that pass defense. I would invest heavily in at least one quarterback, probably two, to really help you out there on defense. Moving on to free safety. This is one that you'll want to invest heavily in, especially if you use the guy. So Minkah Fitzpatrick is a really good one here. You want to focus on speed here. Again, like we're saying, speed is the factor overall here, but Minkah Fitzpatrick is 78 overall. We're looking at cards, by the way, that are more likely going to be available at the beginning of Madden 21. That's why I'm not looking at Minkah's like better cards or any of these guys' player cards. We're trying to look at more realistic ones for the beginning of the year. But 81 speed for 78 overall card, good acceleration. His tackling, all that isn't great. You're not going to have both. You got dudes like Brian Dawkins that you can put at free safety that are more physical, but I would prioritize speed over that physicality at the beginning of the year. He's got pretty decent coverage and all that. Obviously, if you're using him, all that stuff doesn't really matter as much, but you're going to want to have that guy to put over top in case your cornerbacks get burned. Like I said, a lot of people are going to be going after fast guys to put at wide receiver. You're going to want to have fast dudes at safety just to cover over the top in case your cornerback gets burned. At strong safety, you do want to have speed, but if you want to have another guy that's more of a run stopper, like a third and short situation, definitely I would look into investing for that to throw them on the field. Obviously, the big one is Jamal Adams. He's going to probably be very pricey at the beginning of the year, so I don't know if it's going to be worth investing in him for that. But I would actually have two strong safeties on the field, or not on the field, but on your roster that you can swap in and out. One for your regular play style to have back there with speed so you can help out that cornerback on the side of the field so they don't get burned deep. And one to put on the field on third and short that's more of a heavy hitter, more of the big tackler kind of guy that can play a little bit of run defense if you need to. Or if you do like a big nickel kind of defense and all that, they can put down in the box to replace a linebacker to still have good speed, but still be able to play a little bit of run defense. Now, in general, as far as investing in free safety and strong safety, free safety, if you user them, or strong safety, I guess, definitely invest, like I said, with the linebackers. If this is a player that you user, that is definitely going to be your number one investment on defense. For pretty much whatever position you user, unless it's a defensive lineman, on defense, I would definitely invest in that first just to get you a good player to fly around the field. Get a good feel for usering, all that stuff. That's going to be your priority on defense, in my opinion. Aside from the guy that you user, I would put the same priority on the safeties that you do on the cornerbacks. They're going to be very, very important in your pass defense. Obviously, they're going to be their safeties. But again, because Madden 21 is such a pass-heavy year, you're going to want to have more pass defenders on the field, guys that can really help you out. And also occasionally a guy that'll help you in the run, like that secondary strong safety, like I said, someone that's got good hit power, good tackle, block shed, all that good stuff that can really help you out in those third and short situations. So those are the types of guys that I really think you need to target at the beginning of Madden 21 and sometimes throughout Madden 21. Again, the main theme was speed. That's really important at the beginning of Madden 21 because there are some guys that have such higher speed than others that the differential is just massive and you can just burn your guys, especially if you're on offense, and if you're on defense, you can prevent yourself from getting burned with those top end speeds. So I would prioritize speed, that stat, over any other stat in the game except for quarterback. But anyway, y'all let me know how y'all typically build y'all's team, what y'all's plans are for Madden 21, any disagreements, any agreements you have down in the comments below. As always, guys, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, hit the bell icon so you can know as soon as my videos come out. Of course, we have Madden 21 coming out very soon. It's like 7 or 8 days, so I'm looking forward to it. I know y'all are as well. I hope you're all having a good day, though. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.